As the dust settled on the ruins of World War II, the city of Potsdam, just outside Berlin, became the stage for a momentous meeting that would shape the geopolitical landscape for decades to come. Potsdam 1945. The Crucible of the Cold War explores the historic conference where the Allied powers, fresh from victory, grappled with the post-war order, laying the groundwork for the onset of the Cold War. Conference context. 1. Post-war Europe, divided and devastated. The documentary begins by painting a picture of Europe in the aftermath of World War II. The continent lay in ruins, both physically and economically, with millions displaced and cities reduced to rubble. The victorious Allied powers faced the colossal task of rebuilding and determining the fate of the defeated Axis nations. 2. The Big Three: Truman, Churchill, Stalin. Potsdam 1945 introduces the key figures shaping the post-war world. U.S. President Harry S. Truman, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, later replaced by Clement Attlee, and Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin. The dynamics between these leaders, who had replaced the original Big Three at Yalta, set the tone for the conference. Conference agendas. 3. Occupation zones and Berlin. The documentary explores the agreements and disagreements regarding the division of Germany and its capital, Berlin, into occupation zones. The delicate balance between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union in administering these zones foreshadowed the ideological divisions that would define the Cold War. 4. Reparations and economic policies. Potsdam 1945 delves into the discussions on reparations from Germany and the economic policies to rebuild war-torn Europe. The conflicting visions between the capitalist West and the socialist East hinted at the ideological chasm that would later become the central fault line of the Cold War. 5. Demilitarization and denazification. The documentary explores the agreements on demilitarization and denazification in post-war Germany. While there was a shared commitment to prevent the resurgence of militarism, the methods and extent of denazification varied between the Allied powers. Emergence of Cold War tensions. 6. Nuclear diplomacy, atomic bombs, and Soviet realities. Potsdam 1945 scrutinizes the emergence of nuclear diplomacy. The United States' successful test of the atomic bomb and its implications were a factor in the discussions, while Stalin's awareness of the bomb's existence added an element of suspicion and urgency to the proceedings. 7. Soviets consolidate power in Eastern Europe. The documentary traces the Soviets' consolidation of power in Eastern Europe as Stalin sought to establish friendly governments in the region. The Potsdam Conference marked the beginning of the Soviet influence that would lead to the establishment of satellite states. 8. The roots of ideological discord. Potsdam 1945 highlights the ideological discord that began to surface during the conference. The conflicting ideologies of the Western democracies and the Soviet Union laid the foundation for the ideological struggle that would evolve into the Cold War. Legacy and contemporary relevance. 9. The Iron Curtain descends. The documentary explores how Potsdam set the stage for the eventual division of Europe, as described by Winston Churchill in his famous Iron Curtain speech. The ideological and geopolitical fault lines drawn at Potsdam would solidify into the Cold War. 10. Contemporary relevance. Lessons from Potsdam. Potsdam 1945 concludes by reflecting on the contemporary relevance of the conference. It examines the lessons learned and the enduring impact of the decisions made at Potsdam on the global order, offering insights into the origins of the Cold War and the challenges of managing post-war geopolitics. Conclusion. Potsdam 1945, the Crucible of the Cold War, invites viewers to witness the pivotal moments when the fate of post-war Europe and the seeds of the Cold War were sown. As leaders grappled with the complexities of rebuilding a shattered world, Potsdam became the crucible where the visions of the Allied powers collided, setting the stage for the ideological struggle that would define the second half of the 20th century.